Want to know the easiest way to cut your fudge into smooth, perfect squares without making a mess? I've got a super simple method that'll give you clean edges every time. Whether you're getting your fudge ready for a party or packaging it up as gifts, these perfectly cut squares will make your treats look extra special. Let me show you how it's done. Hi, I'm Arina. On this channel, I share my favorite recipes and expert tips to help you make treats that look as good as they taste. You'll find links to all the tools I'm using and other recommended recipes in the description below. Let's get started. First, let's get all your tools and materials ready. You'll need an 18-inch ruler, a pencil, scissors, a pastry cutter, a large knife, paper towels, and a white cutting board. For materials, grab a sheet of parchment paper and disposable vinyl gloves. The gloves will help keep your fudge clean and your hands free of chocolate. Having everything prepped ahead of time will make this process much smoother. Now, it's time to create your grid template. Start by taking your ruler and measuring out 1.5-inch spaces on opposite ends of your parchment paper. Once you have your marks, use the edge of the ruler to draw straight lines from the top to the bottom of the paper. These lines will help ensure that your fudge pieces are evenly sized, giving them that professional look. Next, rotate the parchment paper and mark out 1.5-inch spaces along the other sides. Just like before, draw parallel lines using the ruler, but this time from side to side. When you're done, you should have a perfect grid of 1.5 by 1.5-inch squares. This template will be your guide when it's time to score and cut the fudge into neat, even pieces. I hope you're finding this guide on how to cut fudge into perfect squares as helpful as I do. Have you tried cutting fudge like this before? How did it go? If you've got any tips or ideas, I'd love to hear them. Thanks for hanging out with me. Now, let's get back to cutting those perfect fudge squares. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss out on more kitchen tips and tricks. During the holiday season, I love giving a variety of homemade fudge flavors as gifts to friends and family. It's thoughtful, delicious, and let's be real, it's a surefire way to become everyone's favorite person around Christmas. I always throw in my gingerbread cookies decorated with royal icing for that extra festive touch. Because honestly, what says I'm winning the holidays more than a box of perfectly cut fudge and cookies? Plus, let's face it, when you hand someone fudge, you're basically handing them joy, wrapped in sugar and butter. Now, to keep myself from losing my mind amidst the holiday chaos, I've got a little secret. I pre-make and freeze my fudge like it's a superpower. Seriously, freezing fudge ahead of time is a game changer. It tastes just as good after thawing, and no one will know you made it weeks in advance, unless you brag about how organized you are, which I do. If you want to master the art of freezing fudge so you can enjoy the holidays without turning into a kitchen maniac, check out my other video tutorial. Because let's be honest, anything that cuts down on holiday stress is pure magic. If you're making fudge regularly, I also use a faster method that's perfect for getting even squares quickly. I use a 5-wheel pastry cutter to score the fudge all at once, making the process so much more efficient. It's a great tool to save time while still achieving those perfect cuts. If you're curious how to do this, check out my video where I show you exactly how to use the pastry cutter for the best results. Place your parchment paper template directly on top of the fudge, making sure it is centered and aligned. This will help guide your cuts and ensure even squares. Next, grab your pastry cutter, or if you don't have one, a small knife will work just as well. Lightly score the surface of the fudge along the 1.5 inch marks on the template. Start from the top edge and work your way down, following the lines closely. Remember, you're not cutting all the way through the fudge yet, just marking the surface to outline where each square will be. Once you've completed the vertical lines, carefully turn the block of fudge 90 degrees and repeat the same process, scoring horizontally across the fudge. This will create a grid pattern on the surface, outlining perfect squares for cutting later. By scoring the fudge first, you ensure that each square will be evenly sized when you go to cut through the fudge completely. Now that your fudge is scored, it's time to start cutting. To ensure clean cuts, dip your large knife into hot water, then wipe it dry with a paper towel before making each cut. This will help the knife glide through the fudge more smoothly and prevent sticking. Begin by trimming off the outer, rounded edges of the fudge to create smooth, flat sides. This step helps create uniform pieces and gives your fudge a neat, professional appearance. Be sure to dip your knife in hot water and wipe it dry after every cut. This keeps the blade clean and helps maintain the sharp edges of your fudge squares. If the fudge becomes difficult to cut, reheat the knife as needed to keep it warm. For best results, work slowly and steadily to ensure each square is cut evenly. Additionally, if you're wondering about the best pan to use when making fudge, I have another video that explains the ideal options. Choosing the right pan is key to achieving smooth, even pieces and makes the process much easier. Be sure to check that out for more tips. Now that the edges are perfectly flat, you're ready to cut the fudge into squares. Following the grid you've already scored, begin by cutting along the vertical columns. Start by dipping your knife in hot water, wiping it clean with a paper towel, and then making your cuts along the scored lines. This ensures the knife glides smoothly through the fudge instead of wrestling with sticky, gooey squares. For best results, remember to dip and wipe the knife after every cut. Your fudge deserves those sharp, neat edges. Once you've completed the vertical cuts, it's time to give the fudge a little spin. Well, a 90-degree turn to be exact. And repeat the process for the horizontal lines. After each horizontal cut, gently push the fudge pieces back together to keep the squares intact as you continue cutting. Again, dip your knife in hot water, wipe it clean, and make those cuts nice and smooth. You'll be left with perfectly separated squares of fudge that look almost too good to eat, almost. Here's a tip. If the fudge starts to crack or crumble as you cut, let the knife sit in the hot water a little longer and slow down your cuts. Fudge cutting isn't a race, it's an art. Another handy trick is to use a ruler or straight edge if you're aiming for absolute perfection with those lines. But a little imperfection can add character, right? Now go forth and cut like a pro. And just like that, you have 16 smooth, perfectly cut fudge squares ready to enjoy or gift. This method makes cutting fudge a breeze, and the result is a beautiful, professional-looking treat that's as easy on the eyes as it is on the taste buds. If you're curious about how to package fudge for gifting, make sure to watch my next video where I'll show you some creative and easy ways to wrap your fudge for the perfect homemade gift.